All right, everybody, welcome to Doomer Optimism. This is the fourth in a series featuring people that I have in my book, Resilient Citizens, The People, Perils, and Politics of Modern Preparedness. I'm Dr. Chris Ellis. Once again, I'm just representing myself in my personal capacity. I'm not representing or being endorsed by the Department of Defense or my current command. But my guest today is Tucker Max, author of 4 New York Times bestselling books with over 4.5 million in sales. He earned his law degree from Duke University in 2001, co-founded the publishing company Scribe Media, but now he's radically reinvented his life towards resiliency and homesteading. Tucker, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
So your personal development and preparedness and resiliency had quite a dramatic turn, especially over the years of COVID. In the book, I describe different heuristics of individuals and what motivated them into their preparedness or resiliency journey. A portion of yours is what I call the sentinels. Sentinels are those individuals who are motivated by a fear or a heavy distrust of governments, maybe because what they've seen throughout history: tyranny, subjugation, war, genocide that are led by governments. Others are more concerned regarding things when the government is not there, so without rule of law. Tucker, kind of describe to us what happened in the COVID area, what you saw, that how that kind of radicalized or at least supercharged your resiliency journey.
You know what's funny is a lot of people were woke up during COVID and realized the lie I've been sold, or the story I've been sold is a lie. I already knew. I mean, I've worked enough in high levels of business in Hollywood, in enough interactions with government. I knew that it was mostly all bullshit, but I wasn't actually acting like I knew, right? I mean, I made a movie in Hollywood, so I knew Hollywood was run by sociopaths. I didn't quite interact with the pedophile world. Like, I got out before that.
Okay.
I didn't get invited to any Diddy parties, thank God. But I knew, I've had plenty of run-ins with politics. I knew what it was like, but all COVID really did was sort of hold a mirror to my beliefs. And it was like, bro, you know all this. None of this is really a shock. Why aren't you doing anything about it? And that was when my wife and I were like, oh man, like, what are we've been talking about getting on land for years. We know we want to raise our kids a certain way. And yet here we are in this McMansion, around all these other rich idiots who are absolutely, completely dependent on the fluctuations of the supply chain. They're not insulated from anything at all, regardless of their wealth. And we're like, what are we doing? And so we sold our place dude, I live in Austin. I live in Austin, and it was so funny. It was the total, like, March of 21 California doctors fist fighting in my driveway to make above asking offers, right? Like, I was like, oh, we're cleaning up. This is great. And then went out like an hour west of Austin. Then, of course, bought a ranch that would have been $1 million a few years ago. We had to pay like 4 million for. It was the worst, but whatever. Like, so yeah, got on land. And then from there, man, it was kind of crazy. I definitely had I think in a lot of ways, the wrong conceptions about what it was going to be like and what I wanted to do. But now we're 4 years in, and things are really in an amazing spot. And so I can go into depth on that, into homesteading, like kind of where we were. But honestly, man, like, I think like most people, COVID woke me up and also made me really kind of start taking action on things that I knew, but I wasn't taking action on, you
So
know?
we'll get to that in just a second, but I want to just pull the string on this a little bit. I know you talk about everyday carry and that you're trying to improve yourself with Brazilian jiu-jitsu. You've got some friends, Clay Martin, that you talk about very highly about. I read his book, Prairie Fire, other special forces buddies. You talk about how you read James Wesley Rawls' book, Patriots. I actually just interviewed his son on Friday, Jonathan Rawls. Definitely an interesting individual. But going along that, when you talk to your special forces buddies, what about those conversations also kind of helped change your mindset and that's kind of that sentinel aspect?
Man, like, okay, so that was one thing. I think understanding the governments are fraudulent entities at their core is one thing, but it's a different thing, I think, to wake up to the reality of violence, which is crazy because, like, I've been doing jujitsu for almost a decade. Like, when COVID hit, I forget if I think it was a purple belt or a brown belt. And so, like, it's not like I didn't know fighting, right? I've been doing MMA and Muay Thai for years, and I loved guns, right? It's not like I was anti-gun before, but I don't know, man. I think pre-COVID, it was very easy to live the illusion that we are in a stable, safe society. And for most people pre-COVID, that was, even if it was an illusion, it was for the most part true. Right? And what COVID did, yeah, the violence part, it made me realize too, like I thought I was good at violence, and then I realized, man, like, I don't carry a gun with me. What would I do if I had to use a handgun in a like a serious protect my life, my family situation? I'm like, I'm an okay shooter. Do I know I would be able to draw on time? Would I, am I going to put rounds on target under stress? Am I going to draw at the right time and shoot the right person? Right? Do I know what to say to cops after a true self defense situation? No, I mean, these are like obvious things as soon as you start to think about it, and I realized I was totally unprepared. Like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is amazing. It's a great base for self-defense, but a crackhead with a knife is going to carve you up, like, or even a blue-haired idiot woke moron with a gun. To- you can't armbar a bullet, man. And so like if you don't actually, if you don't know how to protect yourself, and you're not carrying the appropriate tools, and you don't know how to use them under stress, then you're just totally unprepared, right? And it is one thing as a dude, but it's a different thing when you have a wife and 4 kids to worry about. And
Absolutely.
so, yeah, I got very serious about that. Clay's Tim Kennedy's a good friend of mine. I trained with him for a while, and I loved him, but his stuff was starter stuff. And then I kind of graduated to a guy named Jeff Gonzalez, who's a Navy SEAL around here, and Clay Martin, who's a Green Beret. And those two really tuned me up, and really, I'm not. No one's calling me to raid Bin Laden's house, but like I'm very prepared now for a civilian to deal with just about anything that could happen in a civilian context, right? That was a huge thing, man, is understanding that violence isn't something that happens to other people anymore, right? That this is something that could absolutely happen to me and my family, and that if we're not ready, we're going to be, unfortunately, the stuff you hear about in the news all the time, you know?
Okay. I mean, it's interesting. I'm curious. Two questions. I'll give them to you both. One, it seems like the Second Amendment right now under President Trump, maybe making a small bit of a comeback. Sydney Sweeney, she did the jeans ad, but then she also showed the video of her doing her splits with her shooting on the gun range. That's kind of A. But B is that when you talk about our governments, their central motivations usually when they get this large, they get more corrupt. Did you say that that is continuing on with Trump and like his activation of the National Guard? Or you think this is a pause, or
And
what are your thoughts?
I don't, so I have a different view of politics than I think a lot of people. Most people see politics, whether they understand it or not, they see it almost like a team sport, right? Like I root for the Giants, and my friend roots for the Jets, right? You can think sports are different than politics, but that probably just means you're stupid. They're the same thing in most ways. Politics just has a lot more influence on a lot more people, but I'm not a believer, left wing, right wing, it's the same fucking bird, and the bird is shitting all over most people. And that's just the way it is, right? Would I rather have Donald Trump than that idiot drunk woman who he ran against? Yeah, probably, right? I mean, like some turds are better than other turds for sure. I'm not going to pretend like there isn't differences between politicians, but they are all at their core part of a system that to me is immoral, unjust. And I mean, I exist within it to some extent. Like I'm here in this material, physical reality. I live in America, and like I'm a god because I'm not. It'd be cool if I was, but I'm not. And so, but I don't. The debates about who's better or who's worse to me are not just pointless. They're not just pointless. They're not just a waste of time. They're insulting, right? Like there's no difference really. Not really. And I don't recognize the right of other men to rule me. So like Donald Trump, better or worse, I didn't vote for that motherfucker, but I also didn't vote for the other idiot. I don't pretend to pick people who are in charge of me. I'm in charge of me, right? I'm, if you want to give it a name, like a radical sovereignty person, right?
Okay.
I don't, that's not libertarians. Those guys are loser idiots. Like the way I look at it, I don't think is completely unique, but there isn't really a name for someone who just rejects the entire notion of other people ruling them. So I don't care. I don't care what the actors on the stage are doing, whether it's in Hollywood or in DC. it doesn't, I won't say it doesn't impact me because lots of things impact me, but it's a thing I can't control, and I don't recognize their right over me. So fuck them.
Okay. Well, I am in the government. I'll be honest with that, and I will say that there are some definitely some good people there. I won't say all of them are good, but I would say that there is a number of individuals
Good
that I work
people,
with trying to help things
people
out.
for sure.
Yeah.
Are there good individuals in the government? Yeah, of course. But like, I don't recognize any of their right to rule me. You know, it's like I told you, it's not my. There's I get a lot of people love to debate about this side, that side. I think the whole thing's just a distraction and illusion. Like if you're debating who's better or worse, what you're not doing is fixing your own life.
Okay. Well, I think that's a pretty good segue to kind of turn towards more positive now that you've moved to a more of a homesteading mindset. And I think one of the first things you did to kick this off was when you harvested that first bison, which I thought was, I'll be honest with you, I read that story and the way you talked about just the spirituality to it and just how it changed you and you involved the entire family, it was incredibly moving. So kind of starting with that, kind of walk us through some things that you've done over the past few years that have been transformational.
Man, I mean, it's crazy. So we got here October of 21, right? So we're coming up on our 4 year anniversary of being really on land and really committing to this. When we got it, it's so funny. A friend of mine who he works on race cars, like he's like a super high end mechanic. He came out to visit the other day, and I took him on a tour, and he goes, "Dude, 5 years ago, you didn't own a screwdriver." He's like, "You can build." He's like, "You're not good at it, but you can like actually do things now, right? Like you have some idea of what you're doing in the material world," which I will fully admit, man. I was home with anything mechanical, and when you get on land, I mean, I guess it's possible to just pay someone to do everything, but in my mind, I mean, I can afford to do that, but in my mind, I didn't want to do that because what's the difference between living in a McMansion in a suburb and paying people to do everything for you and living on a homestead and paying, there's not really a difference. You're still dependent on
Okay.
others for core base reality, right? And so one of my goals when I got out here was to be functional, be as resilient as possible in base reality, and be as functional as possible in base reality. And when I say base reality, I mean literally food, water, energy, security, right? Like how much of those things do I own fully? And how much of those things am I either fully or partially self-sufficient? So like water, we have two sources of water, both owned. We're totally self-sufficient and I'm pretty resilient on both. Maybe not totally, but close, right? That food are I raise we have egg chickens, we have meat chickens. Have a huge flock of sheep. I get cows from a neighbor. We get milk from another neighbor. We don't eat meat that doesn't come from us or our neighbors who we know. And like I know the cows, right? We're totally meat self-sufficient, right? Now, if I go to a restaurant, like I'm not a weirdo. If I go to a restaurant, I eat their steak. But I mean like 80-90% of what I eat, meat-wise, comes from us or our neighbors. Vegetables a little less. We buy a lot from farmers markets, but we're probably maybe 50% sort of us or neighbors versus grocery store. Energy, we have three systems. We're on the grid, of course, but we're in Pedernales, which is an electrical co-op, which is a pretty good grid as far as grids go. And then we are generator, propane generator backups and solar backups, right? So, and I can run both of those decently well. Like I'm not gonna I can I'm not gonna set them up, right? And I'm not gonna be the one changing them like that. Kind of have to hire out, but I can be a functional mechanic for most of those things. So like I I mean, bro, I'm not sure I could change a tire 4 years ago. Like I was like I have like I don't want to overstate it, but that's been maybe the hardest part of homes. Like I'm really we have 220 fruit and nut trees in the ground. When we showed
Wow.
up, there was one here, one fig tree that they had planted 3 years ago, and there was still basically a bush. We now have like 30 pecan trees, 30 mulberry trees. I'm gonna go down the list of dozen pecans or peaches, nectarines, grapes everywhere, blackberries. Like we have incredible stuff. We've done a lot, man, but like it's crazy homesteading. If you come from a non-mechanical, non-agricultural background, Dude, it's so hard because every day I even now, it's better now. But the first year, I didn't make a lot of progress because it's so disheartening when you wake up every day and you're like, I mean, a literal idiot 7-year-old who grew up on a ranch can do everything better than me. I don't know anything. I don't know how to do anything. Like when I got here, I thought I didn't I dude, I didn't even understand how PVC works. I thought it was really hard, and I called a like, something broke with the irrigation here. I called a plumber, and I watched him do it. I'm like, "That looks really easy." He goes, "It is really easy. I don't know why you called me, but a lot of people call me for this that just moved." And I was like, "Oh my god, oh my god, like an idiot can do that." And so I've now like gotten functional level. But dude, it's really you better be humble, man. Like because every day I have to get up and do things that I mean, like, it's my great grandparents would have laughed at my complete inability to do anything. And now I'm like, I'm good enough where I would still be the idiot on the farm for my great grandparents, but at least I'm functional idiot. Bro, that's hard, man. If you're serious about this and you're not just LARPing, if you're really raising it, bro, I could spend an hour telling you all the mistakes I've had with sheep. My god, dude. Like, it's those and, like, sheep are idiots. Like, but they kept outsmarting me and dying. Either outsmarting me or dying. Dude, it's crazy. It's been humbling, dude. It's been really humbling, but what's so cool is it's not just that we're resilient, right? And that we're prepared. That's awesome. But dude, like, our 4 kids now are ranch. Like my 11-year-old, my oldest is an 11-year-old boy. He shot 5 deer. He skinned them. He processed them. Like he's going elk hunting with me this year. He's like a badass. Because he kind of learned with me, but it was like normal for him to just do this. And now he's like the coolest 11-year-old there is because like he's like a real hunter. Like you could take him out. I mean, he'll shoot a deer 250 meters, no problem. Like he's like better than not all adults, but like most adults. And my daughter's 8 and she like, man, she can cook anything and bake anything. And she's like amazing in the garden. Like they're like amazing kids because and they're on land, they're so happy. It's like it's really that's one of those things I didn't quite understand. I knew in theory, but now that we're out here, it's been even if let's say I'm wrong about the world
Mhm.
and that the world's actually in a great place and it's only going to get better and there's not any sort of disruptions or anything big that we have to prepare for. Let's say none of that stuff happens, it's still the best decision I've ever made. We're still super, super happy. It's still the greatest thing ever,
So
you
with
know?
I mean, this is going right into my next kind of segue into things of just family involvement. So you've got 4 kids, correct? And do they like to niche into things or like to be generalists and do certain things? Like, does one person really like chickens, the other person really likes the orchard?
No, it depends on the kid, but they're pretty much all over the place.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they're really enjoying this then, writ large.
I mean, they love it so much. So we raise meat. We don't buy chicken at grocery stores. It's terrible, and I like nutritionally terrible. It's terrible. I don't care your pasture, whatever. It's all garbage. Like I know enough people in these spaces. Like you can get pretty good meat in some grocery stores. You can't get good chicken anywhere. It's all garbage. And so we raise freedom rangers, right? Which are a heritage breed instead of the stupid Cornish cross, which are Franklin birds and horrible. And we raise ours on pasture and they eat like the best organic grain that we get from a specialty place. And then we process them at our place. Like we don't send them off to a USDA place where they bathe them in bleach and all that nonsense. Which means like my 11-year-old kills when we process them over 2 days, right? He kills 100 birds. And then my 8-year-old takes the dead birds, in the kill cones, right? You slit
Mhm.
their throats
Yeah,
and they drop.
absolutely, yeah.
She takes them over, does the skulls, and then puts them in the
In the bath.
defeather,
Yeah.
right? And then the 6-year-old brings them over to me. He helps me because my wife and I cut them all and do the actual cutting. He helps manage that, right? So over 2 days, every chicken we eat, so we're eating 2 a week. The kids raised it from a chick to processing, then they killed it and processed it. And so it's like this is the third year we're right. So like they see the cycles over and over. It's like a normal thing to them. this is just their life, right? And they love it. They had the best time. They get it. Especially, I don't think they get it. They get it the most when they hang out with other kids
Hmm.
or when their friends come over
Yeah.
and they're like, their friends are like, "Oh my god, like this is amazing. How you killed a deer?" And like, I'm like, "Oh yeah, this is like normal." It's so awesome to watch how confident they are and how capable they are and how happy they are. Like, we don't send my kids to public school. Like, I don't we raise them. They're here, right? Like we do things together. And I actually everyone says they love their family, right? I actually like my family. I really like being with my wife and my kids, and we do things together like this stuff, and it's so rewarding, dude. It's hard to imagine like what I remember what my life was like before I did all this, but like it's like when I go back into Austin and I'm just like, oh man, this used to be our whole life. Going to Target, going to a restaurant, going to our crappy house in the suburbs, like there was nothing else. And now it feels like we live, I didn't know any better. It feels like we live a full, like amazing life. And we were living like a shadow of a life before. I don't know how else to describe it, man. It's like it's great. It is a lot of work though, dude. It's
Yeah.
humbling. It's a lot of work. But once you get past that initial learning curve and you figure out what you're doing and you start reaping the benefits of it, like, and you have a dinner that everything was raised on your ranch and it's like, this is normal. Like, this is great. This is how we are. It's very cool, man.
Well, I'm
It's
thinking like I don't think your kids are gonna have to worry about being ADHD diagnosed or being, fattened up by McDonald's, anything like that. And I bet they're gonna crush it in like chemistry and biology and anatomy and physiology later on.
I mean, to the extent that they even care about learning that stuff, yeah. Like, I said, no, we're not sending our kids to public school. I mean, you want to talk about I don't know if there's a bigger fraud in America than the entire concept of public school, but no, man. Like our if our kids want to learn that, they'll be able to, and we'll help them. But yeah, what I care about is that they have the life they want, right? Not whether they're good at what some stupid egghead tells them is important or not. I don't care.
So
I crushed at that system. I was amazing at school, dude. I got an academic scholarship to a top 10 law school as a white dude. Like, I was really good at school. The whole system's a total fraud. And I'm saying that as a dude who succeeded at it. And now I've kind of gone through life and I realize, oh, yeah. Education's not a fraud. Education's amazing and important, but the public education system to me is one of the worst ways to do it.
my wife and I, we were high school sweethearts. We got married with 20, 21, had kids very young. Both my kids are out of the house now. They're college age, young 20s. But at 48 years old right now, I'm looking at trying to basically build what you have, but for my grandchildren, because I want to raise it for them. And you
You know,
talk
it's
about,
crazy. We're the same age.
I know, 48.
Your
Yeah,
your kids are out of the house, and my oldest is 11.
yes, yes. We are very atypical. But the thing is that so I deployed quite a bit. I was in the service, still am in the service, and I was there, especially during all of the deployments: Afghanistan, Kuwait, Kosovo, Iraq, etc. Over and over and over again. My wife wanted to have more kids. I didn't because I didn't have enough time to spend with the kids I did have. So I'm trying to basically relive that life, except with my grandchildren. But you talk about being a father who is just present with his kids. You're just there with them. They are involved in your thing. You're not sending them away to somewhere else for 8 years to be raised by somebody else. They are a part of your homestead. How has that really changed you just kind of as a man over your life?
And like I said, being in my mind, getting on land and deeply connecting to my family and myself all go together, right? Like I was I had done a lot of healing work and trauma work before we got onto land. Like I had advanced a lot in my life and done a lot of work, but the last 4 years have been not just in certain ways some of the hardest years of my life, most challenging, but also by far the best because of that, of what you just said. The thing that my wife and I really learned, really got the last few years is I I have two daughters and two sons.
Hmm.
Both my daughters are amazing. I cannot think of another woman on earth that I would want to raise my kids more than my wife, right? My
Great.
daughters.
Yeah.
I want my daughters to emulate my wife. That's why I married her. She's an amazing woman.
Hmm.
And the same with my sons. Like, I mean, I know a lot of amazing men, and I want my sons to hang out with other amazing men, but I can't think of a better man for them to model their life after and to learn from me, right? And so it's like there's no other, there's just such a, almost every common idea in America in the West, when start unpacking it, I realized that almost all of them are just horrible and wrong. Like the idea that like raising kids is a shitty job, or kids are crappy, or the wife's an old ball and chain, or I can't wait till the kids are gone and then I'm free, or all these stupid boomer ideas, or maybe not all of them are boomer ideas, but like they're all wrong. I hate them all, and I realized they were all wrong, and I realized like, man, right, I there's no one who's better equipped to raise my children than my wife. I love spending time with my wife and my kids, and in fact, part of why we bought a ranch, and we already talk about this with our kids. But can you? I know Ashley's going through this, and like so many people I know, like they have kids, and around our age, right? Let's just say like 30 to 50, right? They're either starting to have kids or have kids, and like their parents are like, "Nah, I don't want to watch my grandkids. Like I'm free now." And like I can't imagine a more horrifically toxic death cult idea than I don't care about my family. Like, what are you even fucking doing, man? Like, what? Why do you have a family? And why are you around if that's not the most important thing in your life? I don't. I guess if like if you decide, I don't know, man. It's hard for me to now that I have a family and kids. It's hard for me to imagine how people who have the same thing don't happily dedicate their whole lives to that. Like, I don't. All of the stuff I used to care about, fame, money, status, power, seems so juvenile and silly to me now. And like, I understand why at 27 I cared a lot about that, because I was stupid and immature and young and inexperienced, and I didn't have a family. Okay, so like it makes sense that I was kind of an idiot and chased idiotic things. But now that like I have a family, I can't imagine doing anything other than dedicating my whole life to them, to the point where like we haven't talked about with our kids, like, and they're young, but we tell them like this ranch is not just ours. This is yours too. This is our family ranch. And we have a lot of land. And you guys are what you guys get to do anything you want with your lives because it's your life.
Mhm.
But if you want to live here, we'll build you a house here. Well, of course, you want to, nothing would make us happier than if you guys decided to either leave and come back or just stay on the family ranch, and you will build whatever house you want. We'll help you figure it out. Like, man, I just don't, the entire way most people, I'm sorry, I'm rambling a little bit, dude. But like, it's just the entire way most people think about life and family and what they're doing. And the point is just seems, I don't know, man, so sad to me. If you're not dedicating your life to this, there's other things that you can dedicate your life to that are bigger than, right? Like, I'm not saying if you don't have kids that you have an empty life. No, of course not. Plenty of people dedicate their lives to big missions, big things that are beyond them. They decide to do that instead of family. Okay, cool. That's fine. No problem with that. I get it, right? But like, man, like this is like being on land, having a family, us all connecting. It's funny, it took a huge emergency in the world to wake my wife and I up to go do that.
Yeah.
But but yeah, like I'm excited that if bad things happen, we're probably gonna be okay. That's cool. I could care less about that now. That's like the 10th coolest thing about being on land and homesteading with my family. Right? Isn't that funny how that works?
It is.
Even though we knew we wanted to do this, we weren't doing it before.
Right. So I had a podcast that I was on earlier on this week. It was with Graham Summers, Bulls, Bears, and BS, and I cited this article to him. I think you'll find this fascinating. But it was published by the American Psychological Association. It was regarding well-being, and it found there was a detrimental impact to a person's well-being if they set extrinsic goals, wealth, fame, beauty, etc. But if they set intrinsic goals, growth, relationships, community giving, and health, that overall they had far more positive outcomes to their well-being. It was a 35% difference between person A and person B in these two different groups. And it just sounds like you're a living example of that, about how your homesteading wasn't really just about the chickens or the bees or the orchard. It's really about your family, and maybe even in the future, a multi-generational plot where you're like going to be here for your life and have roots in this ground for generations.
Yeah, 100%. Although, too, man, I'm telling you, this is gonna sound, bro. Being on land, I didn't realize how agitated and adrenalized I was on a day-to-day basis until I got on land. And it took a year for my nervous system to calm down. Like, I think
Okay.
just living in a city is just adrenalizing,
Yeah.
like, period. Right. And being out here is like so calming and so, connecting with nature, being in the sun, being with animals, moving at the speed of life instead of the speed of technology or city is crazy. Bro, is it raining at your place like
We just had this
torrential?
massive thunderstorm come through, which is awesome. So I got the lightning flashes and everything else. Sorry.
Okay, that makes sense. You know what's so funny about that? My first thought was, "Fuck, I wish we had rain." Like, think about. I never you don't think about weather if you live in a system or a city, unless it's like, oh, it's going to interfere with my picnic or something. Now you live like I'm like an old dude. Like I'm on my phone looking at the weather 3 times a day. It's like, it's so fun because we have a rainwater system. That's how we drink. Irrigation for all the trees. Like, because I live in Texas, man. Like, it doesn't rain enough. We only get 35 inches of rain a year here. Like, you really have to pay attention to everything.
So
It connects you to everything.
I live in Colorado Springs right now. I think we get 16 or 18 inches a year. My wife is absolutely the one that watches this weather all the time, and she's now raising bees, and so she has to harvest at certain times. So you can't harvest during the rain season. But yes, these things roll through in the summertime for about a half an hour almost every single day, and it's just nice. It's just like this nice pattern of life and just this cycle of things, but that we enjoy.
Yeah, dude. I'll tell you. How many? You have 2 kids, right?
Yeah, two kids, boy and a girl.
You might want to. I don't know. Have you talked about that with them? Like, mommy and daddy want to get land. We'd love to, get a place you guys want to settle eventually, anything like that.
We have, and every kid is different. Right now, my children are they're trying to discover and find themselves. I apologize. It's like dumping now, of course.
Dude, I get it. I get it. There's
Yeah,
no problem.
they're both young 20s. My son just graduated from college, mechanical engineering degree. He's just starts tomorrow on his master's degree. Insanely intelligent. My daughter got her degree, and then didn't really like it, and is now in the medical field, in ultrasound, finishing up that degree. But they're the part of like, I want to find out who I am as a person first.
Of
But I
course, of
think
course.
that after they find their spouse, I think that after they start having kids, this whole like, wow, this whole family thing is really important to me. I think they'll come around to it. I don't know, but that's the hope for sure.
Well,
Yes.
I mean, that's another thing, man, is like, if you think about it, I actually come from, on my mom's side, to the extent that American aristocracy exists,
Hmm.
like, I come from it on my mom's side.
Okay.
Like, son, like, my aunts are in the Daughters of Liberty, my uncles are in the Sons of Liberty. Like, we trace our line directly straight back to a signer of the Declaration of Independence and Articles of Confederation,
Wow.
original settlers of Kentucky. Okay, you know this. You know who Henry Clay is, right?
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
the Warhawk Center. So his cousin's Cassius Clay. Do you know who the original Cassius Clay is? Not
Not the
Muhammad Ali.
boxer.
Well, do you know why Muhammad Ali? Why his original name was Cassius Clay? Do you know the
No,
story?
go tell the story, please.
So,
And I'm gonna mute
uh,
myself because of this noise.
I got you. That makes sense. So the Clay family were one of the sort of original settlers in Kentucky, or original sort of landed gentry. And Cassius Clay, his nickname was the Lion of Whitehall. There's a museum where my family has a bunch of our stuff in his museum in Whitehall. And anyway, it's in, I think, Madison County, Kentucky. He owned like all of Madison County, whatever, 50,000 acres, something crazy. And he was one of the original abolitionists, and Southern abolitionists. I think in somewhere around 1840, he freed all his slaves, and most of them moved to Louisville. And every male slave took the name Cassius Clay as a sign of respect for the man that freed them. So it was so funny when Muhammad Ali, was doing all this shit in the 60s with Nation of Islam, saying, I'm getting rid of my slave master name. It's actually the other way around. He got rid of the name of the man who freed his family, not his slave master. And that's my family, the Clay family. On one side, the other was Marcella, who were like, they same sort of history, right? And so the reason I bring this up is that's the way families, at least certain types of families, used to be. Is that so? For generations, there was massive estates. Everyone, grew up on the estate. Either it got divided or whatever, but families were economic units that stood together and evolved together, held land together, built structures, companies, economic entities to benefit each other. My family, by the time I came around, all the money was gone, all the land was gone. They had about 3 generations of shitheads that my mom was one of them. My mom's generation and then her parents, that those 2 generations basically blew, sort of like everything and fucked everything up. And so by the time I got to my generation, there was nothing left. But which is fine, like whatever. I wasn't like bitter about that. I wasn't even around enough to know what the good old days in that family were like. But what it actually taught me is like, why am I not doing that with my family? You know, like I can make a bunch of money and buy a bunch of land and set up economic and legal structures to protect that money and that and support that family. It doesn't mean people don't work. I mean, I don't want trust fund. My kids are the furthest thing on earth from trust fund kids, right? Like, seriously, like, they're killing and cutting up chickens, right? So, like, you can't get further from that. But, like, it's such a goofy idea in the West. So many people are like, "Oh, you're 18, you gotta go do it on your own. You gotta carve out your life." Well, no wonder everyone's poor. No wonder why Gen Z can't afford houses. No wonder why young people are so depressed. This is not how humans are supposed to live. This is not how healthy, functional families work. Like,
So
I don't see my job is not to lionize myself and to create things and status and money and fame for myself. My job is to be a steward for my children and grandchildren and set them up in a situation, both economically, but also socially and education wise, to thrive, right? Why would I not do that? Why would I not use all my money and resources and power to help my family? Like, I can't, like, it's so, this is like, who does this now? Almost nobody.
right.
And it's so crazy to me. The whole point of aristocracy was setting up structures so families can thrive over multi-generations. You
Yes.
know, why aren't people, I'm not saying, most people, when they say, why aren't we need to do this, what they mean is they want someone else to do it for them. I don't talk about this much. I'm too busy doing it. When I have it all set up and when it's easy to think you're a great parent when your kids are little, right? Let's see what my kids are like when they're 20 and then, 25, 30. Then we'll see if what I'm talking about's going to work or not. I'm pretty confident it will. So I don't like to talk about stuff when I'm doing it. I try to talk about it now when I'm done with it. But like, since you brought it up, like, and you're more in that spot than I am, you're a decade ahead of me with your kids. And like, listen, to me, it's the whole point. This is the whole point. Let's set this up so that we can all thrive together.
So
You know,
I have 2 points on this. One, we lived in Germany for 6 years. I was stationed there, and it was amazing. The German society, the European society, really is a multi-generational society. Family is incredibly important. Sunday, everything shuts down. I mean, it's a blue country. Nothing really happens on a Sunday unless it's involved with the tourism industry. But the house that we lived in, we lived in the above the top floor. The people who owned the place lived in the bottom floor, but right next door they had an ADU. That was where Grandma and Grandpa lived, Oma and Opa. And Oma and Opa raised our children. Our children went to German schools, spoke the German language, spoke Bavarian, dressed like Germans, swore like Germans, acted like Germans, and they were treated like German kids by Oma and Opa. And Kim and I, we love that. We go all around Europe, and that's what we saw as the rule rather than the exception. That's A. And B, to your point, in my book, I talk about this. I talk about the last 80 plus years, basically since World War II and on. This is the historical human experiment anomaly, especially in the West and especially in America. We came out of World War II as the victors. We were the hegemon for the world, and we had a ton of money because we were kind of the only game in town. We built all this stuff up for things, and we became this consumer society. When you become a consumer society, you don't need family anymore because you're always on the up and up. Well, now we're reverting to the mean and we're like rediscovering that, you know what? It is actually pretty smart to have kids when you're younger in life, get married when you're younger in life, and to have this multi-generational, not aristocracy, but just multi-generational wealth, things that I'm going to pass on. If I'm going to live on a plot of land for 40, 50, 60 years, I'm going to take pretty good care of it because my grandchildren are going to live on that plot of land as well. We've lost that. We can just go buy a McMansion or a craft shack that was just built with some, plywood and everything else and some spray paint and duct tape. That's not how we're supposed to live.
dude, I couldn't agree more, man. Like, I just, and this is, I will admit, this is not a thing I could have thought about before I started having kids and family. And that's so many people, when they say legacy, what they actually mean is, what do other people think about me? I don't give a fuck what anyone thinks about me. I honestly don't. Except, I mean, I care about my family. Like, I'm talking about other people outside my close inner circle. It couldn't mean less to me. When I think about legacy, I think about what are my children and grandchildren, what life are they going to live, and what will they think about me, right? Will they say, and we had an amazing dad and grandfather. Look at all the things he did. Look at how he set us up. Look where we are because he decided that he was going to, he and grandmother, he and mom decided they were going to set this up. I mean, like, I come from a big family with a long past, an illustrious past that, a couple generations squandered it all. But at some point, like the dude who signed the Declaration of Independence, William Floyd, decided, I'm going to go to Kentucky and get 50,000 acres because he had a huge estate in Virginia. And I'm going to set up my ancestors,
Yeah.
right? And okay, fine. It got diverted for a while, but it's not that hard. If you decide to do it that way, it's not that hard to start that again. I
So
don't, especially if you think if you're 20 and you're like, I'm going to be working for the next 50 plus years and I'm going to have kids and grandkids and all of us who decide to, right? Because people can always go their own way, are going to go in one direction, and we're going to work together for the next 70 plus years.
yes.
What can we accomplish? I mean, it's really easy you can go. If this test has been run, go
Hmm.
look at what the Amish do. Go look at what I mean. You can go look at what other groups do when lots of people act this way. Get amazing, amazing societies. It's
When
pretty
I
simple.
lived in the Middle East, I can go to a poorer area, it's, more of a third world country, but the same thing, even with just the pittance that they had, that they were earning, they kept it all within the family. And so even that just smidgen of extra money, that 1 or 2% over time and over multiple families, multiple siblings, it adds up and it creates a generational wealth. And it also creates generational power because
Yep.
they're very cohesive.
Yep.
So Tucker, my question for you then for the next kind of concentric circle out is how much are you involved in your local community besides like buying, milk or whatever it is you get from neighbors?
Yeah, and that's a great question because if we're talking about real preparation for real disaster, whatever that disaster is, community is almost certainly the most important thing, right? And in almost all those situations, and man, and in America, I think community is the hardest nut to crack. Because of exactly what you said. I don't think just because you're wealthy, it means you don't need family. I think there was a concerted multi-decade effort in this country, led by people like Edward Bernays, to sell the idea of consumerism and materialism
Hmm.
to people. The reason everyone hates the boomers is because they bought that idea and they lived their life that way. And now look at them, right? Like they're as a generation, they're the dumbest generation of narcissists the world's ever known because they bought as a generation. You could find individuals who aren't like that, but as a group, they bought that idea. I mean, my parents they could be in the dictionary for what a boomer, you know, I don't know, man. I, it's, man, bro, we could spend an hour on community. I have gone down this rabbit hole very deeply. When I first came out, like, I almost actually started a town. Like, I had a
Yeah.
bunch of people very wealthy people who were willing to back me. They were more worried about, like having a bug out place, which is a whole different. I'm not convinced having a bug out place is a good idea. I think you should live at your bug out place, and because like you have a bug out place, okay, that's great, and then you have a security team, cool. Well, if shit really goes down, guess who's in charge? Your security team is. You know how many billionaires, bro? Do you know serious name billionaires you would know who I know real well. And we'd be talking, and they'd be like talking about bug out ranches and this and that. And oh, yeah, my SEAL team's led by, or my security team's led by this SEAL, and he was in this unit, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you understand if anything bad happens, that dude now owns, like, you built that place for him, right? And they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, dude, like, what? If there's no more law and order, or law and order is broken out at all, and he's got the keys to your place. Like what? Like that? I can't tell you how many family office, exclusive meeting things I went to, and most of them had not even thought about that. And the ones that had, their solutions were so stupid. Like, well, I keep all the food under lock and key. Like, dude,
Yeah. So Tucker, if you like this conversation, if you like
like
this
what?
conversation, There'll be a podcast that I just recorded earlier on this week with Bradley Garrett. Bradley Garrett literally wrote the book called Bunker, and it's about bunker preppers. And we had about a 10-15 minute conversation on this, maybe shorter, about just exactly what you were saying. What happens when the bad thing happens and now your SEAL Team 6 that you're paid for private contract has now got your homestead? Like, congratulations, man. Good job. There's actually, I got a book on my bookshelf that is, the entire book is about that. It's called Survival of the Richest, written by Doug Rushkoff. And it's basically, he was just invited to a meeting, just like you said, and it was a whole bunch of these gazillionaires, and they were talking about, like, no kidding, Running Man necklaces that they would have on the SEAL Team 6 guys, so that if, like, the SEAL Team 6 guys mouthed off to them, it's like, boom, I blow your head off kind of thing, because
Do you know?
that's what they're trying to control. It's like, and I put it out in that one, I'll put out in this one as well. Dear rich people, if you want me to help you build a end of the world bunker thing, it's going to involve a whole lot of other individuals, and you can be the Duke of Earl of it, but it's going to be a communal type thing. So don't give your money to SEAL Team 6 and whatever. Let me help you build your Wrath of Non-Perfect society. I'll help you out and spend your money far, far wiser.
Yeah, no, well, so I had to do a presentation at one of them for some sit, and all I did, I played. Do you remember Batman, the Batman movie with Bane, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the scene where he goes into like he takes over the city and he goes into the bank and the banker's like, I gave you all this money, blah, blah, blah. And then like the guys, everyone else is starting to leave because they're arguing. Bane is in the main banker. And then he goes, stay here, I'm in charge. And then Bane looks at him and he puts his hand on his shoulder and he goes, do you feel in charge? And literally, I just played that scene.
Yeah.
And I'm like, guys, wake the fuck up. And they're all like, oh shit, right? And so that's actually, that meeting was, I raised, I don't know, man, soft raise. Like I didn't have the money committed. Raised I probably had about 30 million soft committed, and which is more than enough to buy. Like I was gonna buy land, start a town. I was going to use that as seed money to start a town. And I went way down that rabbit hole and I realized, I mean, it's doable. I had two different ways to do it. One was to essentially build a sort of wedding venue resort type thing, and that's the impetus for what people are going to live there. That's how you build the community. That's how the core of the community you can be like totally doable, becomes financially self-sustaining, and the money to seed capital is essentially Bug Out Ranch for whatever 10 super wealthy families, right? Okay, totally doable. Another way is, well, there was a couple other ways, but whatever. The point is, one of the things I realized, man, was that like, man, it's so hard to build a community that way if you aren't doing it either money based, like a company,
Mm-hmm.
right, or a cult, right?
Yeah.
If you're not the same religion or cult or cult like beliefs or company beliefs, it's very hard, man. And like I've got a couple ideas, and I think there might be other ways to sort of, I don't know, cut this pie. But man, I almost fucking started that, but then I realized, like, dude, like almost any way you go, when I really started walking down the path with like people who've done, no one's built a real town or real community like I'm talking about in about 100 years in America. Like no one's really done that. And I like everyone I talked to, but I went to all the rabbit holes. You know that you brought up Rathanot. Remember he wrote that piece,
Absolutely.
How to
Yes.
Build a Small Town in Texas? He wrote that for me.
Yes. Tracking.
Like, right, yeah, like I'm the one who reached out to him. Like, I've got this money committed. We're gonna do this. What would you do? And so, like, I went down every rabbit hole with everybody who's done anything close or I think is smart in this space, and I got spooked, man. I got really spooked because I just thought it was too complex to pull off, at least with the ways I was thinking about it at the time. Like all the models for this,
Mm-hmm.
it's sort of like, you can't, there's no compromise between like food and poison, right? If there's there's only a teeny bit of cyanide in that burger, then you're gonna die, right? And like, it's like the way our society works is on certain levels so screwed up that I don't know how you can build healthy structures out of that from those same assumptions, right?
Yes. So
And so unless you know of somebody who's done this, again, without either a because what's the core value proposition to build a community around if it's not money, commercial, or cult,
yes,
right?
I've seen it.
That's
I've seen a very small scale, but like you said, most intentional communities, they just they crap out. There was the Citadel that they tried to do up in Idaho.
all
There
of
was
them have.
There was an
All of them.
I think there was Trident Lakes actually in Texas that they tried to do this bunker, bunkerplex, and it failed. But the thing is that if you're going to do this intentional community, community is the word. It can't be 80-20 where 80% of your population is just flying in there for a timeshare. That's not how you build a community. And the 20% that remains is just your gardeners and your the
You're
landscapers
poor.
and crap like that.
You're
Exactly.
poor.
You
Right.
can't you
Right.
cannot do it that way.
Either it's a feudal kingdom or it's a fucking cult. There's no other
Yes.
way. And I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying I have been trying for the last 2.5 years to figure out how to do it. The only thing I've come up with, and I mean in the broadest sense, is you can build something very slowly, ground up,
Yes.
I think. But and I think that's probably what I'm going to end up. I have enough land. We're going to probably take 20 to 30 acres and build like a small European, like Rathanon style, like
Hmm.
European village. Just there's because you can do that. It's still legal to do shit like that in Texas. It's not
Nice.
legal to build like that in most places. And so starting very small, ground up, very selective with who you rent to, who you let live there. Maybe, right? That's how you can build a real core community in a small space. Anything else, man, I'm just like, you're kind of reliant on luck, man, in so many ways, you know? Maybe you know something I don't, man. But we've done a pretty good job community round tripping, but it's like, it's not better than most, but not what I would consider good.
So the things that I've seen is a few things. Like I said, one, you can't timeshare this. You can't just it cannot be 70 homes and 56 of them are Airbnbs. It's just not going to work. You're not going to fly in there from this isn't Jackson Hole. So what you've got to do is just like you said. There's actually a guy online. I don't know how successful he's been. He's trying to do this in Oklahoma right now. His name's Untapped Growth on Twitter right now. He's trying to do something along these lines, regenerative agriculture. But
Yeah, I
here's the
talked to him actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, perfect. So here's the things that I've seen that are successful. You have some sort of just thing that keeps drawing you back there. It's a gorgeous area. It's a beautiful. You have a nice lake. You have a nice whatever. So it's just a nice retreat. It's a getaway to start out with. So you do kind of start out at like the luxury resort thing, but then you have individuals that come in, and you want families, and you want families that are actually pretty large, probably 3 kids or more, that are willing to bring grandma and grandpa there, and they're going to be multi-generational. And you want people like, hey, this is like a 99-year lease. You can give us $1 million for a 99-year lease, but if you leave in 10 years because you got a job at Cornell or Goldman Sachs, something like that, like have a nice day. We're keeping your stuff. Like it's gone. You want somebody that's going to stay there, and like we're gonna put a cemetery up, and you're going to be buried in the cemetery because this initial founding plank individuals, are going to be a part of this for multi generations, and you deed it to like your kids. It stays in the family kind of thing. And then also the other thing I've seen as well is that, and again, you don't have to have a cult, but I do think that good Christian backing, so people have at least something as far as what they believe is their base values. This is what we believe in. We're going to be forgiving. We're going to show some grace. We're going to be nice to each other. We're going to believe that we're going to be judged in the afterlife, kind of thing. Those kinds of variables come in, and you can. It'll be hard, but I think it's doable.
I don't disagree, man. I don't disagree. I just like I'm 49. I think probably the next act of my life is going to be trying to solve that puzzle.
Okay.
The thing I learned, I'm glad I learned this quickly and cheaply, is that I'm convinced that you can't do that top down. It's got to be bottom up,
Yes.
right? So very similar to what you just described is very similar to what I think I'm going to end up doing and how it's going to work. And I'm probably just going to keep running experiments until either I die or one of them works.
Well,
It's like,
go back in time and look at the things that have worked. Go back and look at no kidding, like the America from 1650 to 1790 or so. Look at the Mayflower Compact. Look at the things along those lines. Or like this is our
right.
charter, and this is how we're going to do things.
All of those people were in the same cults.
Yes, yes.
Right? And like, so that's the thing. I'm not atheist at all, but like that's the thing that look, it's when you if you okay. So, well, first off, if you look at America and the dates you outlined, right? Part of why America worked is because there wasn't one cult, actually, not at all. There were multiple ones, right?
Sure.
Like the reason the Puritans came is so they didn't have to be around other cults,
Hmm.
right? And so and if you we had essentially so much room and space that all the cults could have their own space, right? Everyone could have their own space and it worked great. And like honestly, like I mean, I'm sure you're educated enough and know enough of the history to know, like there's no it's hard to find battles as intense as the ones between cults that are just a little bit different, right? Like in America, like
Hmm. Sunnis and
Baptists
Shias.
hate
Sure.
them each other way more than Baptists hate, Jews or Muslims, right? And so like, man, that's the hard part now is that even being Christian now in America doesn't mean anything remotely like what being Christian meant in, 780, dude. It's not even close. The closest thing we have is you have to think about like Amish or Mennonite, like where your entire identity, you don't go to a church. Your identity is being in that, like Mormons. Mormons are actually really, really close and they're far more modern. So, I mean, I don't know how many Mormons you know. I actually know a bunch of Mormons. And if I was going to join a church, like a Christian dogma, I honestly think I might pick them, man. Like, I think they've solved so many of the group organization things so well. The logistics, how they run that is like really smart in so many ways. And I'm trying to figure out a way to, like, again, you got to share the same values, but like, how do you share the same values without being in a cult?
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
That's the difference.
I mean, again, the founding fathers established America as a republic because of that reason. They knew that we were going to have these variations on things. It's why people talk
Right.
about the Second Amendment and there's a separation of church and state between, the wall of separation of church and state. But that really wasn't to prevent the government from imposing things. It was a recognition that we had Anabaptists and Catholics and everything else. And so it was to not have any one national religion because there were various sectors within the Christian religion writ large. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know the answer, man. I don't know. I think it is doable. What you said is close, man, but we'll see. I also think it's inevitable. Like that's the future. People want to live I think in groups that are naturally human, relatively small groups where everyone shares basically the same values and people are either related by blood or related by deep belief, right? Because it doesn't have to be blood. Like there's plenty of very successful human organizations where they're not like all related thousands of years together. And I think the pendulums, I don't know when it peaked, but it's coming back, man. The
I
the
agree.
consumerism atomization of society pendulum peaked at least 5, maybe 10 years ago, and it's coming back. This problem is going to be solved. Like we're going to go back. It's inevitable.
So I think COVID was one of those things where you said it just kind of held up a mirror to society. And some people embrace it as like, man, I love this authoritarianism. And some people are like, what are we doing here? And then after a year of just being, socially distanced. So I've been teaching youth group on and off for 25 years, working in the church. My last assignment, I'm in Hawaii. And so this is 3 years ago now. But the youth group there was different than any other youth group I've ever had. Like the kids they were so sick of the fake and the online and that you could have 1,000 followers, but it was all online. It was distant. They wanted the real and they were hungry for God. And I'm seeing this now in the numbers of especially young men coming back to
Dude,
Christianity.
through the roof.
Yes. Right. Because
Catholicism, Eastern Orthodox, both have
yes.
seen conversions like they'd never seen.
Right. So again a return to pre-World War II ism of how we are. The last 80 years is we are reverting to the mean now, and everyone's coming back at it a different way. And some people are embracing they'd rather embrace socialism because again they're looking for a different system than what we have right now.
Yeah, no, it's true. Oh, the people who drive in their cars alone with masks on, they need something to believe in. Because obviously they have a god, it's just the state, right? So like that's let them all go be in their death cult.
But
Fine with me.
they're looking for order, so I understand why. It's that human desire to have a meaning or purpose, or at least a connection to a whole bunch of others. So if that's how they connect to others, then that's how they derive community feelings.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess. What's their hearts, but
So I try to be nice here. So Tucker, kind of just wrapping these things up. If you were to offer advice to the folks that are looking at what the successes you've had over the last 4 years, what advice would you give?
I don't give advice.
Okay.
I mean, I don't like. I'm not trying to be trite.
Yeah. No.
I think it's really. This is one of those things where everyone tells every other, like almost by default. Like an influencer, every influencer or people who whatever are in media. Like, here's what people should do. Here's what you have to do. that is a shame-based frame, and I
Okay.
don't take I don't I am that's the other side of sovereignty, right? If I say, you know, no man can rule me, I don't expect to rule any other man. The only purpose of shame is to try and get control over other people, right? And I don't I know it might seem a little pedantic. I'm not trying to be that way. I, uh, I don't give advice. I don't tell people what to do. I don't tell people what they should do. I don't even do it with my kids. I don't do it with anybody, right?
Okay.
Now, the other way to ask that question is more like, you know, if someone's interested in walking the homesteading path, right? Like, what are some things I've learned, or how would I look at it, or what, you know, like I'm happy to offer my experiences. Yeah, I'll talk about what I've done all day long,
Okay.
right? What I would, if you're interested in homesteading, I'll tell you that here's the three lessons that I think I wish I kind of understood more at the beginning, but I think are really important. The first thing, man, so many people think of homesteading as like, I've got to make money from that. Dude, I have a friend of mine who owns 10 acres. He just moved here, of course, from California, and he's all fucked up in a ton of ways. And the first thing he's like, oh, it's so cool. He came, walked my place, saw everything. He's like, I want to do something just like this. He's like, but I just like I don't want to lose money doing it. It's gotta at least pay for itself. And I remember looking at him like, what kind of fucking idiot are you? Like, what is wrong with you? Like, you think that you have to do this. The only way it's okay to do this is if you're making money from selling the things you make. Like, as if eating healthy and connecting to your food and your land, that's not the value for you. It's got to be, you've got to be getting money from other people. I was saying, like, when I walked him through, it was like, oh yeah, I'm not sure why I thought of it that way. But so many people think of homesteading as like, either I got to do it all. Like, if I'm not eating only off my land, then I'm a failure, right? Which is nonsense. I know a ton of people who on a quarter acre are feeding themselves 30% of their food. That's a win in my, if, from where I come from. That's amazing. If you're taking any steps toward resilience and sovereignty, I think it's awesome win. You
Great.
can go slow, you can be small, you can be step by step. You don't have to make it a profession, and it can look an infinite number of ways, right? That's another thing I really had to learn, is that like I don't have to do it any other way except what makes sense for us, right? I mean, we're doing a lot. We're doing fucking badass stuff here, but like, and so a lot of people come like, I could never do all this. I'm like, well, you probably shouldn't. Like, why would you? You don't like, why would you? Don't do things you shouldn't do. And then I look at like Richard Preston in Sweden, and I'm like, man, I could like, this dude's doing amazing stuff. So that, like, it can look in an infinite number of ways. Another lesson I really learned is that, like, man, it's when I first started, I didn't really understand the sort of non I started for resiliency preparation reasons, and I'm not saying I've let that go or that doesn't matter anymore, but that's like 10 or 15% of the value I get from it, whereas at the beginning it was like 90%. Right? I was open to all the other benefits, and now, honestly, no joke, if I knew for a fact all the preparation disaster preparedness was a complete waste of time, even counterproductive, right? I would still do this in exactly the way we're doing it. It's so I'd probably spend a lot less on ammo, right? Like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
there's some things I wouldn't have 3 power generation sources if I knew I didn't need. Okay, fine. But everything else I would do the same. The benefits you get from being on land and connecting with nature and your family and doing stuff like that together are so through the roof that I got, that it made everything worthwhile. And then the other thing that I really, man, I want to go back. It's very, for me at least, I thought I was humble, and man, it was so humbling. Dude, do you know how many times I have like done things that are so basic that like anyone who understands either mechanical or agricultural stuff would just laugh at me? And it's like, they'd be right to laugh. And I'm a very successful man who's done a ton of really cool stuff in my life. And to go into a field where I'm not just not the best, but I'm like literally, my skill level is not, I wouldn't, if I was one of the dudes standing out front of Home Depot trying to get a job, a day labor job, I'd be the last person picked. That's like that's my skill level, dude,
Right.
right? And it's but I just kept going. It was very humbling and I just kept going. And now it's like, so if you want to get into it and you like me, you don't have any experience, it's possible. I did it. But also just understand you're gonna need to be okay with being humble about what you're learning and making a lot of mistakes. And you'll get there. I got there. It's totally doable, but I was not quite prepared. Probably a good thing. If I'd known, I'm not sure I would have started. It was, but the benefits ended up being totally worth it for me,
Well,
you know?
you sound a lot like, a bit like Wendell Berry, your friend, the 10 acres. It sounded like a very extractive relationship, whereas you're like, I'm not here to be extractive. I'm here to be a part of this ecology.
That man, that idea also I didn't understand. I think if you're very I came to God very late in my life, like about 6 years ago, right? Like I was a total atheist, like a almost not quite a Sam Harris idiot atheist, but I was an atheist because only thought about things. I didn't feel things. And if you only, I'm very convinced that there is no way to logic or reason yourself to God, right? I still think that's true. But I think God is an experience. And once you have that experience, then it's, oh, of course, this is correct. Of course, everything on the spiritual side is obviously correct once you're able to connect that. And some people can connect very early and very young and very deeply. I wasn't one of those people, right? And so I got there ended up getting there through psychedelic medicine and having deeply profound and rapturous experiences and realizing, oh, atheism's silly. Of course there's a God. Of course we're all one. Of course, all of that, right? And that really helps me with being on land and nature and sort of all of that. And I think if you're coming from a place where you can have those experiences, where you can connect to God, let's call it, then I think connecting the land and nature is easy. Like it's like that's like
It's
almost
creation. Yeah.
it's one and the same, right? Exactly. All things are imbued with creation, right? All parts of creation are part of creation. And so if you're coming from like that, Wendell Berry, very Christian, right? Like most of the old school environmentalists, all very, very Christian, very spiritual, right? It's only very recently the materialist environmentalism is sort of, which is like very weird and this weird sort of toxic sort of line of environmentalism. I came like that's I'm a big believer in that, man. I'm a big believer, like being out here, if you open yourself to the experience, it's right there, right? It's absolutely right there. I think the experience of God and the experience of nature connecting, all those things connecting together, and seeing yourself as part of that, it is deeply humbling and meaningful and overwhelming in the best possible way. So yeah, like Wendell Berry said that he's right. And I think being on land and homesteading and working the not just being on land. I know a lot of people own stuff and they don't work the land, they don't connect to the land.
Hmm.
What if you want to connect to land and you're way better off working a half acre in town than you are sitting on 1,000 acres doing nothing. That is absolutely true. I can say that with experience. I have a buddy who owns 13,000 acres. We hunt it all the time. He's couldn't be more disconnected.
That's a shame. Tucker, just kind of wrapping up our conversation here. I can see just a tremendous amount of growth in you. You talk about your family just as your lifeline, basically, your wife and your children. You talk about the growth you've had in mechanical engineering and learning about sheep and everything else that you grow. What's kind of the next step for you? What's the next growth step?
Like I told you, like, the next major thing for me is I wanna figure out how here's the thing, I don't wanna figure out how everybody can build the community, I don't care about it. I mean, yeah, in the abstract, I guess, I would love to help lots of other people. I want to figure out how I can build a community, right? And through that, if I can do it in a way that's other people can imitate or replicate, awesome. I'm totally on board. I would love to, my if my candle can light a lot of other candles, totally on board, right? But I'm a big believer that the only way to get a candle that can light other candles is to do it for yourself.
And you have to show an example, a positive example that other people want to be a part of. They want to look at that and go, wow, I want to go there. I want to live there. I want to be part of that. How can I have that here where I'm at?
It's another thing of where so many people are like, I want to solve this problem. I want to save the world. You can't fucking save the world, but you can save yourself and you can save your family and you can build an amazing family and life and community. And by doing that, you are in effect doing the same thing that people when people say they want to save the world, it's what they actually mean. Like what the healthy version of that is. And I've built an amazing family and we have an amazing sort of inner circle, inner sphere. And I want to try and build a community in a similar way for me and my family. And everyone is like, I want to build that community for us, right? And me and whoever else is in it. And whatever else comes from that, I'm on board. I'm great, super happy, right? But that I think is the next step for me. How can we have everything we want except the community I want to live in.
So the motto that I kind of put my a good portion of my book around was "Fight local, win local," which seems to be exactly what you're talking about here.
There's no other way.
Yeah, and I end my
No
book,
other way.
my last chapter, the epigraph, one of them, I have two, but one of them is your quote, and it says, "The most important thing you need for prepping is community. A cabin in the woods is nuclear war era thinking." So, Tucker, I'll leave the final word to you. Anything you want to have to say about this or my book or anything like that, or any questions for me?
No, I mean your book's great, man. I thought you might be the first person who's coming from, in quotes, the establishment who gets it, right? Like everyone else you talked about in your book, pretty much, they're all very anti-establishment, or they exist outside of the establishment. Is there, I can't think, I mean, I know this space pretty well. Is there anyone, I mean, you're a career army officer who's worked in these fields for the establishment your entire career. You clearly get it. Is there anyone else who's written a book or any sort of serious large piece of literature or thought on this that really comes out of the establishment? I think you're the first, dude.
I know one, but he doesn't like his name being shared. I'll tell you after we kind of finish this up.
He
But yeah,
hasn't hold on. So he hasn't created anything for the public.
well, he's created it for the public, but he's backing away. I'll tell you who it is
Okay.
after we chat.
All right.
But
Well,
yes, in the
you're the first one I've seen or heard of,
yeah, I would
right?
say that in the establishment, the disconnect is so interesting. What it reminds me the most of, and I talk about this in my book when I'm talking about the Kennedy age, is that it was during the Cuban Missile Crisis, and they're like, "Oh man, what if we go nuclear with Russia?" And it's like, "Hey, all these people within Washington D.C., they're going to go to the safe place in the safe bunker, but they're not bringing their families." And when that reality hit, they were like, "Well, I think I'm just going to wait for the bombs to drop. I'm not going to go." And so that massive disconnect blew my mind because it's just like there's nothing's changed. Just
No,
nothing's changed.
no, it hasn't, dude. What one of the uh do you know who Chris Williamson is, the podcaster?
I
Like
do not.
he's got really, really, it's like one of the top 5
Okay.
podcasts. It's like in the top 5 or 10.
Hmm.
It's called Modern Wisdom, right? Chris Williamson.
Okay.
I've been on the show and he lives in Austin. I know him real well. And one of the things I told him early in his career, something very similar. And I just saw, like, I was just talking to him about this. One of the things he learned, man, is that because he's now interviewed like everybody, right? Literally like president. I mean, I think Trump went on his podcast. And so like one of the things he's learned after a decade of doing this is the way he says it is it's idiots all the way up. Like, he's right. And I know, because I know all the same fucking people he does. And it is definitely one of those things, man, where when you are young, or when I was young and poor and anonymous, I thought, oh, when I'm rich and famous, all my problems will be solved and I'll get to hang out with the smartest, coolest people. And I got way richer and more famous than I ever thought I would get, and it didn't solve any of my problems. In fact, it made it worse. It just accentuated all the shit I was running from and hiding, and it gave me a lot more tools to indulge the worst parts of me and my vices. And then I met all the people who I thought were cool and smart and had their shit together, and I realized they were way more fucked up than me. And so I was like, hold on, what is going on? And so, like, that is a huge part of why I got super into preparation and why I am for my family and want to build my own community, because I realize if I don't do it, it's not going to happen, at least for me. Right. And I don't know what else to tell you. No one's coming to save me. I don't think anyone's coming. I just, what's so impressive about your book is that, like, I think you are the first person who, and I don't mean establishment as an insult. I just mean someone who has made their career inside the edifice of government or media, who is actually saying the things that are true about this space and what's happening in this space and what the future holds. I mean, that's a big sign. The fact that you're able to get a book deal and saying those things and publish it, and it's probably going to do really well. That's even 3, 4 years ago, bro. For sure, that was almost unthinkable.
It absolutely was. I was at Cornell during that period of time, and it was a little before that, and it was exceptionally difficult. When I first got there, one of my professors thought I was like PTSD of what I was studying and what I was trying to break. I'm not even joking. That's not. There is zero joke in that. And thankfully, my dissertation advisor, she was former Air Force, and she's like, "No, he's totally fine. This is the way they think. They're trying to break the dynamics of things and try to do some systemic change." And it was rough, but thankfully COVID came. When I say thankfully COVID came along, COVID came along and broke some of that mindset and made what I was discussing real. So I was lucky.
All right, cool, man.
Hey,
I'm excited for you, dude. I think the book's gonna do really well, and you deserve all the attention you get from it because it's good, man.
well, thank you very much. We had Tucker Max on today talking about just homesteading and growth journeys. I appreciate it very much. Have a great day.